Part 99. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 984. The sky seemed to tremble for a moment. The huge attraction, like a real black hole, erupts from the subspace that shines with faint black light. What? The giant palm that fanned towards the clone was so affected by this attraction that it almost made his eyes split with shock. You must know that ordinary half-stars are difficult to be affected by a force that suddenly appears, but now this medium-talented half-star is actually affected by this force. The giant palm that fanned towards the clone was affected by this attraction, and then fanned to the other side. The predecessor seemed to have anticipated the scene and flew over. The attraction seemed to be controlled by someone. When the clone came over, it disappeared directly, allowing him to fly through smoothly. The giant palm was close at hand. The clone rushed through the giant palm and came to the mid-level talent semi-star. Then his muscular arms became stiff. This was a manifestation of the maximum strength. Then, the clone aimed at the mid-level talent and half-star's head and struck hard. "You dare!" The medium-talented half-star monster looked at the muscular feet in front of him, seemingly in disbelief. A high-level talent with ordinary strength dared to attack him head-on, which was simply beyond his imagination. But no matter if you don't believe it, reality is reality. The face of this moderately gifted and semi-star genius is a little distorted because of anger. Of course, he was originally a monster, and now that he is distorted, he has not become uglier or anything. In anger, he raised his palm, intending to kill the clone monster in front of him with a backhand strike. But when he threw out his palm, the attraction suddenly appeared again. What on earth? How can it be so attractive? The monster couldn't throw out its palm, and then looked at it with some fear. The clone monster king in front of it hit his head hard with its foot. Boom! Above the universe, an explosion of light exploded. There seemed to be a huge terrorist planet explosion in the entire cosmic area visible to the naked eye. The clone struck with almost all the strength of the second-level powerhouse, causing great movement. No one expected that the first one to achieve results on the entire battlefield was actually Jia Yan's side, and it was done by the seemingly weakest sub-level clone in the entire battlefield. "I am going to kill you." It's a pity that even if the clone contained a full power attack, it was still unable to cause fatal injuries to the medium-talented half-star being. A terrifying injury appeared on the opponent's head, and then he roared and chased in the direction of the clone. However, before the opponent bombarded the clone, there was a faint attraction behind the clone, pulling him back quickly, and then even disappeared into the subspace. How come this monster has the talent for space, and what is that attractive substance? How could it have an impact on our semi-star level existence? At the edge of the battlefield, the female half-star of the pink power, Su Minfu, who attracted Jia Yan here, looked a little solemn at the scene of the battle. "I used to think that the battle would be one-sided. Moke and his companions from that level should be easily killed by 3.5-star level beings, but now it seems that it actually feels like a tie." Of course, Jia Yan's true form seemed to be in a life-and-death crisis whether he was escaping into the subspace or escaping for his life, but the battlefield on the other side that was supposed to be simpler turned out to be completely beyond everyone's expectations. MOK's second-level partner seemed to have developed a terrifying space talent in this battle, and there was a faintly powerful murder weapon helping him in the space. Damn it, if we join forces with the disciples, no matter how powerful Moke and his partners are, they won't be able to survive. By the way, the people over there should have noticed that something unexpected happened here, and they will rush there immediately. When the time comes, MOK will be crowned no matter how strong he is. Su Minfu looked at the situation on the battlefield and wanted to take action, but she was a little hesitant. You must know that although they are a group of female monsters who have some strength, they have experienced few actual battle scenes. Now that they see Jia Yan and his clones, they are able to tangle with 3 terrifying half-stars. She didn't even dare to take action. Seeing that the battle situation between the Avatar and the two mid-level half-star level beings was quite satisfactory, the pressure on Jia Yan's real body was greatly reduced. Of course, it was not reduced much. Puff! A crisp sound came from Jia Yan's side. At this moment, Jia Yan used the power of brain waves to crush a space stone. At this moment, the attacker's terrifying power struck, but the space around Jia Yan's body was forcibly opened. At the same time, the cell power on the surface of Jia Yan's body exploded like an explosion. The control force suppressing the surface of Jia Yan's body was directly destroyed by the two forces correspondingly. The pressure of a highly talented and semi-star level existence was actually resolved by him. At this moment, Jia Yan jumped into the subspace, and then, dangerously, the claws of an attacking monster came to his side. Fortunately, before that, Jia Yan jumped into the subspace, and the space behind him collapsed, and his body was slightly affected. But Jia Yan still jumped into the subspace, and then, without even looking at it, he thrust out with his front feet toward a twisted place in the subspace. The next moment, the attacker had just bombarded Jia Yan's previous body, and like magic, a blue claw suddenly appeared in the nearby space. This front foot is extremely fast and stabs at the vital part of the attacker's head. Snort. The attacker snorted coldly, then raised his paw to block the blue metal claw. Jia Yan even felt that a small piece of the concept ship's piercing claws shattered. The gap between the two sides is too big. The next moment, Jia Yan felt that in the subspace where he was, a control force followed the veins of the subspace, trying to come directly to his body and force him out of the subspace. Not that simple. Jia Yan roared in his heart, and then a huge black object appeared next to his body like a firefighter, and suddenly arrived. Boom! In the subspace, the huge attraction suddenly attracted the opponent's control power for an instant. Then the opponent's control power loses its direction and is consumed in the twisted space. Huh! The highly gifted subdimensional being from the outside world suddenly changed his expression. Even he was a little shocked. What Jia Yan had behind him seemed to be far beyond the control of a sub-level being. But Jia Yan wouldn't say that the thing he has in practical use now is an artificial black hole, and it's an energy-enhanced version that Jia Yan has remodified. Fortunately, the power of this black hole was enhanced yesterday. Although its lifespan is shorter, it can be used directly today. It is already a timely rain. Jia Yan had just finished using his black hole, and the black hole moved quickly again, reaching the clone on the other side. Without the help of this black hole, the clone would be killed by two medium-talented half-stars in just a few moves. This battle is too difficult. No one would believe that two subdimensional beings actually fought against three semi-stellar geniuses, one of which was the top high-end talented semi-stellar being at the top of the entire genius battlefield, and even looked like they would not die for a while. This has broken the imagination of many spectators. Horrible, too scary. The pink power beings watching the battle all looked at each other, especially Su Minfu, who was almost horrified. In fact, they gave Jia Yan the task because they listened to the disciple group's words. Of course there were some disputes between the disciple group and their forces before, but it was not a big deal. After the disciple group promised some benefits, they agreed. What I didn't expect was that the so-called Moke, the enemy of the disciples, would actually be such a terrifying existence. Fortunately, he must be dead now, otherwise our red and pink forces would all be terrified. The strongest members of the red-pink force are half-stars with moderate talents, and their combat power is generally weaker than that of ordinary half-stars. Seeing Jia Yan's strength, Su Minfu knew that if Jia Yan went to them alone, it's possible that no one can stop someone from causing trouble within his power. Find the book garden. She also felt a little lucky. Such an existence was about to die. In front of several half-star existences, MOK and the monsters who helped him were destined to die. Boom! At this moment, in the battle scene, a medium-talented and half-star strong man seemed to be angry. Two medium-talented and half-star level beings could not do anything to a second-level strong man with ordinary strength. He would not be angry. Strange. The monster exploded with all its strength, and with a burning meaning in its eyes, it stepped forward towards the Jiayan clone that had just jumped out of the subspace. But just when the monster was about to strike with all its strength, a terrifying attraction suddenly appeared on the edge of his body. Humph. I'll hold this weird thing back while you go over and kill him. This monster who exploded with strength actually turned his opponent around, turned his head directly, and faced off with the sudden attraction. The medium-talented half-star monster on the other side understood it, and at this moment, it also suddenly exploded with all its strength. He took one step forward and rushed towards the Jiayan clone that had just emerged from the subspace. This sub-level monster with bulging muscles never spoke, but just followed MOK. No one took him seriously before, because they all found out that the strength of this existence was only one person at most. Ordinary high-level talent sub-levels only exist. But none of them expected that in this battle, with the help of the attractive substance, their strength would explode with their skills, and they would frequently escape from the hands of two semi-stars with medium talents. Now you are going to die. When the half-star monster saw the indifferent eyes of the muscle monster looking at him, a sense of killing pleasure emerged, and then he bombarded him in front of the clone. He was sure that the opponent would never be able to escape without the help of the strange substance. Puff. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 985. A half-star level being with moderate talent strikes with all his strength, so terrifying. The entire universe seems to have been turned upside down. The flames were as hot as the sea of fire. Before the other party touched the clone, Jiayan's brainwave power, which controlled the four dimensions of the clone, felt an irresistible power. But the brainwave power of the clone shows no fear at all. Because the medium-talented half-star being who launched the attack never expected that the space behind his body would crack slightly. A faint blue forefoot radiated out of the space lightly. No one expected that in this battlefield, a Lanyi's front foot would actually appear, and the feeling of this Lanyi's front foot seemed that the brainwave power had not even reached the next level, but was only at the peak level of a venerable. But the power of Lanyi's front foot cannot be underestimated at all. When the medium-talented half-star being struck at Jiayan's second-level clone, the blue forefoot, like an arrow from a string, shot out from the subspace behind the monster that was attacking with all its strength. Puff. The half-star monster was extremely excited. Just when he thought he was going to kill the second-level monster that made him so humiliated, his body suddenly shook. Then he looked behind him in a daze. And before he could even look back, Lanyi's front foot had already stabbed him again. Puff. This half-star being with moderate talent had his forehead pierced directly by the forefoot that seemed to have only the power of the brain waves of the Supreme Master. After that, Lanyi's front foot did not stop and directly retracted into the subspace. The subspace was completely closed, and the starry sky returned to its original state. The entire process only took less than a few seconds, which could be described as a blink of an eye. But in this blink of an eye, a terrifyingly powerful half-star monster with moderate talent actually. Death. How could it be? What kind of monster's front legs are that, so terrifying? Even the brainwave power emitted by those front legs is just the venerable. Su Minfu and other female monsters on the side were all frightened. One female monster couldn't hold back and rushed into the battlefield. Husband, the female monster called out, representing her relationship with the dead half-star monster. But there was no way she could get close to the battlefield. Puff 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 puff. On the battlefield, sparks flew everywhere. What's going on, what are you? On the other side of the battlefield, high-endowed half-star monsters kept bombarding him. In front of him was an empty metal body. When this highly gifted monster bombarded down, there was a terrifying suction behind him that neutralized most of its power, but the small part that fell still caused major damage to the metal body. The high-level half-star monster was shocked because he felt that when he was fighting the metal monster in front of him, he suddenly felt that the monster in front of him suddenly lost its soul. Then under his attack, the opponent just mechanically dodge and resist. It's like the controller inside the metal suddenly left, and what's fighting him now is just a program-controlled machine. And his eyesight is also very good. He saw everything that happened there, especially the Bluefoot that assassinated the medium-talented semi-star existence. He saw it very clearly, and the fluctuations on it were actually the same as those before the metal body. It feels very similar to the feeling when the strength explodes. Just when this highly talented semi-star monster wanted to use his energy to completely destroy the metal body that was mechanically resisting in front of him. Behind his body, a faint murderous intent emerged. You want to use the same hand on me? Don't even think about it. This monster is indeed a half-star high-level talent. The moment he felt the fluctuation, he turned around and struck. The strength fluctuations emanating from behind were just that of the Venerable, but he did not dare to underestimate it. The front foot that had assassinated the mid-talented and semi-star level being before had such a penetrating force that even he might be injured. Boom! Above the sky, the Lanyi front foot, which only exuded the strength of the Venerable, collided with this highly talented semi-star level being. Although the piercing power of this front foot is extremely terrifying, it is still just a Venerable level object. When it collided with this half-star monster, the tip of the front foot was completely shattered. Die! The eyes of the highly gifted semi-star being flickered, and then he wanted to go all out and kill the front foot itself hiding in the subspace. But at the same time as he attacked, an attraction suddenly appeared. This high-level semi-star level existence was somewhat annoyed to find that the fragment of its front leg suddenly retracted into the subspace. After another moment, the metal body that had no sense of life actually felt like a soul again. So that's it, your true body is actually that blue-footed monster. You're actually wearing such an advanced battle armor body. This scene caused the highly talented semi-star being to almost change his expression. He understood the huge secret of the moke in front of him, that is, the opponent was not a metal race at all. The character he showed to others was actually a person. It's just like wearing battle armor. And his true identity is the strange existence that shot out its front feet before. And the fluctuations it emits are actually just a Venerable. A Venerable being who can kill a half-star being with moderate talent in one sneak attack. What a joke. No matter what kind of existence you are, you must die now. The existence of a semi-star with a high level of talent did not dare to think about the other party at this time. You must know that such a terrifying Venerable person cannot even be explained by him. Even top geniuses may not be able to reach this level. Thinking too much will only make the faint feeling of fear in his heart deepen. Otherwise, if he concentrates on fighting now, no matter who the opponent is, as long as he is dead, it is no longer a threat. The person who entered the body of the concept ship was indeed Jia Yan. He had taken risks before. It turns out that Jia Yan was not only unafraid when the previous clone encountered a huge crisis, he even saw an opportunity in the clone's crisis. That was the attacking medium-talented monster. It seemed that all his energy was focused on attacking the clone. If he seized the opportunity to make a sneak attack, he might be able to solve a big trouble. So Jia Yan decisively left the concept ship, rushed directly from the subspace behind the medium-talented half-star monster, and succeeded in a sneak attack. The body of the concept ship here was based on a simple anti-enemy program designed by Jia Yan long ago, and it resisted several attacks from the highly talented semi-star level monster in front of it. It's so scary, the machine body has almost reached its limit. As soon as Jia Yan entered the concept ship, he saw the price of his adventure. It turned out that almost the entire concept ship was smoking, and even several screens were no longer displayed, almost in a semi-disabled state. But this is already the best result. You must know that the concept ship resisted a highly talented semi-star level being. Although it was assisted by Jia Yan's remaining cell power, this result may be possible, and it will definitely be a surprise to Jia Yan. Yes. Escape. Just when the opponent's bombardment came again, Jia Yan's entire brainwave power was activated, and his cell energy was also activated with great force, and together with the body of the concept ship, it entered the subspace. He originally wanted to use the semi-star monster with high talent to control power, but because of the attraction of the black hole behind him, he had no choice but not to bombard Jia Yan. After entering the subspace, Jia Yan's damaged forefoot began to be repaired quickly, and the concept ship, which had very similar characteristics to Jia Yan's evolved beast, also started repairing it. It's just that there is some energy around them, which is quickly absorbed by Jia Yan and the concept ship. If it weren't for these things, it would be impossible for them to repair it. The battle scene on the other side was a bit strange. The clone fought with the half-star monster with moderate talent, and the fight ended in a draw. In terms of strength, the medium-talented half-star level is not much stronger than Jia Yan's clone. But now that the opponent is fighting, he does not dare to use his full strength because the previous half-star level person died in front of him. The reason is that he used all his strength, but was attacked to death by Lan Yi's front foot. So now he was looking around worriedly while fighting the clone. He was actually timid and could not exert his full strength. What he showed was that he was tied with a mere second-level monster. Su Minfu, come here to help me fight. When he saw the half-star monster at the top of the red-pink force standing in the starry sky on one side, he suddenly roared angrily. If this half-star level pink power had joined the battle before, and they were besieged by 3 mid-level talents, how could ordinary existences in this area be able to survive until now? There will be no such thing as the death of the mid-level talented half-star. Su Minfu was stunned for a moment, hesitant. If you don't come back, if these two guys escape, your pink power will definitely be the first to be destroyed. They are only at the sub-level now, and they are already so terrifying. If any one of them is promoted to a semi-star existence, you will be destroyed. Isn't it extremely simple for the pink power? After being reminded by the half-star monster attacking Jia Yan's clone, the red-pink half-star monster finally woke up and flew to the battlefield. And at this moment when the battle situation changes. How to deal with two trivial existences? They actually fought like this. Here we are. In the entire battlefield, which was almost always in crisis, several powerful warships quickly arrived at the edge of the battlefield. It turned out that in a distant place, several of the Disciple Regiment battleships playing the role of being robbed were coming quickly. Within these battleships, 3 existences exuding half-star strength fluctuations came fiercely. Even among these 3 half-star monsters, there is also a terrifying high-end talent half-star monster. Jia Yan had already used all his methods to deal with a high-talented half-star monster and was on the verge of death. Now there is another high-talented half-star, and there are even 2 medium-talented half-stars. Such a team, Jia Yan will definitely die without a burial place. Desperate situation, absolute desperate situation. Come here quickly, these 2 guys are too troublesome. It's hard to earn money from your disciples. The guy who got stuck even died. Thanks to the book friend Mendy Uwo for the reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 986. Hearing the sound of the rushing team, the half-star being with moderate talent who was fighting Jia Yan's clone on the battlefield was overjoyed. Bai Chinese. W greater than or equal to W greater than or equal to W. Less than or equal to 81 ZW. Then he was no longer afraid of sneak attacks and increased the intensity of his attacks. The 3 half-star warriors from the disciple regiment who rushed to help were shocked when they heard this, and quickly flew out of the battleship and quickly headed towards the battlefield. There are 3.5 stars, and there is even one with a high level of talent who actually fought hard against 2 sub-levels. That Kali with a medium level of talent even lost his life. What is going on? They were horrified, but the rush to rescue did not decrease. Boom! Just when this group of monsters suddenly attacked, a loud noise that shook the whole place resounded directly in the entire starry sky. At this scene, not only the monsters rushing to the rescue were shocked, but even the group of monsters who had been fighting before were also shocked. There is no other reason, it is precisely because the vibration is so terrifying, like a thunderbolt, which makes people feel frightened. Even half-star monsters felt a shocking power fluctuation at this moment, and then they all looked towards the place where the noise came from. And at the center of the noise, it was the place where Jia Yan fought with the high-level half-star monster. It turns out that Jia Yan's several powerful battles have reached the edge of extreme danger. Even if the monsters rushing to rescue did not come, it was almost difficult for him to escape. But now he saw 3.5 stars charging towards them, and Jia Yan could no longer hold them back. He used his best backup plan. Boom boom boom. In a vacuum environment where sound should not appear, the fluctuations are so severe that they even touch the oscillations of space, causing sounds to appear. This is caused by excessive vibration. The expression of the highly talented semi-star being who had already gained a chance of victory in the battle with Jia Yan changed drastically. Then he flew backwards and directly exited the fighting area with Jia Yan. On the other side, there was a fierce battle with Jia Yan's avatar, a half-star being with moderate talent. He was also shocked and quickly distanced himself. You must know that the two sides are tens of kilometers apart, and they actually react to the same wave, which shows how terrifying this wave is. And what is this? The answer is revealed. Behind the body of Jia Yan's concept ship, a terrifying black giant slowly emerged from the subspace. This giant thing is too huge, completely over 50 kilometers in diameter. There was a terrifying attraction on it, and there was even a hint of instability, which made the hearts of the creatures who looked at it beat wildly. Madman, the suction power is actually this thing. Whoever made the simulated black hole actually gave it to MOK, a madman, to use it to fight the enemy in subspace. When the highly gifted semi-star being saw the huge dark thing behind Jia Yan's concept ship, his expression changed drastically, and he quickly distanced himself without even daring to look back. You must know that the man-made black hole, although under normal circumstances he is not afraid, he can even feel that if he strikes with all his strength, the black hole may be completely destroyed. But the situation is different now. This black hole is obviously not in a normal state. It shouldn't even be so big originally. I don't know what MOK used. This made the black hole much larger, and the power revealed was not just suction. Instead, it is all kinds of things. It should be that this black hole has absorbed too much material before, and now it cannot be stable. The whole thing has become unstable, as if it is about to explode itself. I don't want to play with a lunatic like you. If you're not careful, we'll both die together. The high-end talent monster was just a friend invited by the disciples at a great cost. Now that he saw Jia Yan actually come up with something that made him feel a little bit in danger, of course he wouldn't play with it now. Several monsters on one side were also retreating quickly. No one was sure they could survive such a huge man-made black hole explosion of 50 kilometers. Seniors, why are they leaving? Haven't we had enough fighting yet? Jia Yan's voice was indifferent and sarcastic as he talked to these retreating monsters. Black holes are still emerging from the subspace. For such a huge thing to come out of the subspace completely, it requires a lot of money. Jia Yan feels that his space stone is quickly losing its power. The few semi-star level beings in the distance were about to flee, as they would not be persuaded by Jia Yan's words. Anyway, No matter what Jia Yan takes out, it doesn't look like it can chase them. As long as they keep the distance now, if it explodes later, Jia Yan won't be able to survive. Even the three disciple monsters who had just joined the battle group were looking at Jia Yan with some horror at this moment. They seemed to have quickly understood why the previous three beings of the same level could not take down Moke and Moke, his ordinary high-level talent secondary level partner. The reason is that the sky is too cruel. Seeing a group of monsters retreating like crazy, a strange light flashed through Jia Yan's compound eyes in the concept ship. Then his body in the real space suddenly disappeared. The next moment, next to Ci Guanfen's body, the shadow of a monster appeared instantly. It turns out that Jia Yan came to the clone through the subspace. Seniors, we will meet again later, but it would be a pity for this black hole to explode here, so I will take it to the headquarters of the disciples and perform a big fireworks display, haha. Jia Yan just pulled his clone into the subspace, and then the huge black hole shook again while being unstable. It's like it's on the verge of exploding, as if it's about to explode at any stimulus. The explosion of such a terrible thing is not just an explosion, it will also affect the surrounding subspace. Jia Yan inside will also die without a burial place. But Jia Yan is still crazy about exploding the black hole on the edge, and just drags it back to the subspace. What's even more ingenious is that the thing that everyone thought was about to explode actually slowly returned to the subspace. I don't know if it was luck or if Jia Yan really had such exquisite control capabilities. He wants to escape. The expressions of the several semi-stellar geniuses on one side changed drastically when they saw that Jia Yan and his clones had entered the subspace, and even dragged the 50-kilometer large man-made black hole into the subspace. What can we do to escape? How dare you chase us? The highly talented semi-star being who had fought Jia Yan face to face glared angrily at the master of the disciple group who spoke, and then shook his head. In fact, until now, he still couldn't believe his battle with Moke, why he, with a high-end talent of half-star level, couldn't win the opponent quickly. In his opinion, Jia Yan's strength was much stronger than that of ordinary second-level geniuses, but it was still far behind him. But when he really fought, his overwhelming strength was defeated. The other party used messy methods to forcefully even the fight for a long time. After being yelled by this high-level gifted half-star being, the middle-level gifted half-star who spoke in the disciple group suddenly shrunk ahead. He really didn't dare to chase it, because the man-made black hole was too scary and would kill him if it exploded. Boom 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 boom. In front of a group of semi-stellar beings who dared to look far but did not dare to approach, the huge man-made black hole entered subspace again. Then the distorted space still did not recover, and seemed to explode at any time, with waves of fluctuations moving slowly. Jia Yan is trying to move the black hole. This battle really put too much pressure on the black hole that was already on the verge of collapse. I relied on the power of exploding it to fight like this, but now it has actually expanded so much. Jia Yan said that he was not afraid of the black hole exploding, which was false, but now he could only rely on the threat of the black hole to escape safely. Walk. The next moment, Jia Yan's space power was fully deployed. At the same time, the few remaining space stone powers exploded with brilliance around the huge black hole. The next moment, the man-made black hole, which was on the verge of explosion, became slightly more stable in subspace. At the same time, it starts to move. The distortion of subspace can be seen even in normal space. He will definitely be killed. If we move back further, if that thing explodes, it will be dangerous even 1,000 kilometers away. We will have to be at least 10,000 kilometers away before we are seriously injured. If we want to be safe and sound, it will even cost millions. It can only be done kilometers away. The monsters and battleships of the outlaws looked at the constantly twisting subspace and fled frantically. But after waiting for a long time, there was no sign of explosion. Not long after, the distortion of space stopped. No, I feel that the distorted space is moving quickly. A semi-stellar being with the same space talent felt the movement of the starry sky from a distance. The direction he left. Yes, what he said is that he wants to go to the headquarters of our disciples and set off fireworks. This. It's not good, we need to notify the headquarters quickly. The three half-star beings of the disciples were almost shocked when they thought of the words Jia Yan said when he entered the subspace. The other half-star foreign players looked at the panic of the disciples and looked at them with cold eyes. Don't worry, with the appearance of his man-made black hole, there is absolutely no way it can be dragged to our power headquarters tens of billions of kilometers away. It might explode halfway. That's right, but we still need to notify the headquarters. He's moving forward so fast, maybe there's a chance he can reach the headquarters of our disciple regiment. Not to mention the 3.5-star powerhouses of the disciple group who were extremely panicked. It was only said that after Jia Yan entered the subspace, he used his space talent, plus more than 20 space stones, to barely control the huge black hole on the edge of the explosion. It's so hard. This big guy is really not that easy to control. Jia Yan was a little helpless. He had to control the black hole with almost all his strength to prevent the black hole from exploding. If it exploded now, he and the clones around him would definitely be dead. But I will hold on and won't give up transporting it. The disciples have dealt with me time and time again. Now it's my turn to give them a big gift. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 987. Gratitude and grudges are the life creed that Jia Yan has always believed in. Especially after his rebirth, he has instilled this into his fighting philosophy. In this dark realm, he kills as he pleases, and has been dealt with by the disciples several times. Even this time, the opponent dispatched so many semi-star beings to set up an ambush for him. If it weren't for Jia Yan's own strength, he might have died long ago. This is a dead end. Since Jia Yan breaks out of the situation, he naturally has to give the other party some gifts in return. How do you say the old saying? It is rude to come and not reciprocate. Boom 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 boom. The twisted and expanded man-made black hole is constantly trembling, almost getting bigger and bigger in this twisted space. If it hadn't been for Jia Yan's space talent to suppress it desperately, it would have exploded long ago. Even if he was suppressed to such a situation, Jia Yan did not dare to be careless at all, because this thing was on the verge of collapse. If he was not careful, he would be blown up in this space until his bones no longer existed. What? You said that there are 6 or 7.5 stars, but you can't keep that MOK, and you can't even kill his companions. Now he comes with an artificial black hole that is about to explode and attacks the headquarters of our disciples. Are you kidding me? In the starry sky, there is a voice of communication, communicating over long distances in the universe. The communication capabilities in the Genius battlefield are much more advanced than those in the northern starfield and most of the starfields that Jia Yan passes through. There is not much delay in the area of tens of billions of kilometers. Well, don't underestimate this MOK. His strength is no less than a mid-level half-star genius. Even if I fight him, he relies on that weird black hole and space talent, and there's not much that can be done to him. Method. In short, we have indeed miscalculated. You should be prepared, he is about to pass. Of course, this possibility is only about 30%, because I judge that the artificial black hole will not be able to persist to your headquarters, and it will explode. In the starry sky, a highly talented semi-star level being in a battleship communicates with beings far away. The communicating monster is the highly talented semi-star monster that Jia Yan had fought head-on with before. Needless to say, the person he was talking to was an equally highly gifted semi-stellar being from the headquarters of the Disciple Regiment that he contacted urgently and used a secret channel. Are you kidding? Well, even if I believe you once, I will make arrangements now. The half-star over there took the initiative to hang up the communication, and the high-end talented half-star here breathed a sigh of relief. That MOK is too scary. This being who had fought head-on with Jia Yan was a little frightened. Only now did he think about the terrifying strength that Jia Yan had shown before. Although he doesn't have much actual combat experience, his combat prowess is not weak at all. What's more, his combat skills and fighting methods are relatively novel, so I didn't win him quickly. But as long as you give me one more chance, I can definitely kill him, and I don't even need 3 moves. The monster recalled the previous battle with Jia Yan with some annoyance. In fact, there was another reason why he was so angry that he did not say. That's what he saw before, that Bluefoot seemed to be just a venerable one. If the opponent's true form is just a venerable, then he doesn't know what level the opponent's talent has reached. For such a terrifying genius, the genius battlefield official may spend huge resources to help improve it. So he was frightened. It was possible for a genius of this level to be a top genius, or even more than that. If he fights against MOK, won't he die miserably in the future? No matter what, let's first see if MOK can reach the power of the disciple group. If the wind is not in the right direction, I won't fight with him. Anyway, he doesn't know that I am not actually a member of the disciple group. I will hide when the time comes. If I keep him, he won't know I exist. Thinking of this high-level talented semi-star immediately felt relieved. What he didn't know was that in the disciple group, which was tens of billions of kilometers away, the high-end talented half-stars of the disciple group who had just stopped communicating were all laughing with disdain. This guy must have a headache. He can't deal with a sub-level being, so he wants to make a black hole about how powerful he is. I asked before, the 3 colleagues in our force in the past have never seen how powerful MOK is. It's true that the black hole he took out is real, but it will definitely not be able to reach our power headquarters. Even if they think about it, they say it might just be a fake to scare them and use it to escape. That's right, this highly talented semi-star force has always been in competition with our disciples. It was indeed a mistake for us to invite him this time. The disciples here were almost half a star level, and they actually ignored the warning. The disciples did not issue any alarm, and the entire huge force continued to carry out its usual life. What they didn't know was that in the dark universe, a monster of only the venerable level was trying to maintain the terrifying pressure on his body. A terrifying power that was beyond what he could bear was steadily controlled by him. Because of the help of the space stone, Jia Yan has the possibility to stabilize the explosive black hole with this power. Soon. Looking at the twisted space around him, Jia Yan flew quickly again. The disciple group, this is a force that even if it is placed in the battlefield of outside geniuses, even in the central star region, it is definitely a medium-strength force. In the entire force, there are more than a dozen half-star terrifying beings. Of course, these half-stars are all above average talents, and there are even 3 high-level half-stars. Such terrifying strength, of course, is one of the top forces in this dark realm. Their force headquarters covers an area of tens of millions of kilometers. There are countless small stars on the huge star map, and almost every one of them is filled with monsters. Of course, the real headquarters is still in the center of the star map, where there are 10 of the most prosperous stars, and there are 5.5-star level residents stationed here, including a highly talented half-star level. Today, several half-stars gathered together to discuss the development of their power. There was news before that our biggest problem, the monster MOK who once caused trouble in our carnival planet, actually escaped from our carefully planned siege. They even said that MOK would come to take revenge on us. Force headquarters. It's simply ridiculous. It's fine if he doesn't dare to come. If he dares to come, he will know that our power headquarters is no worse than the Dragon Pond and the Tiger's Den. Let's not talk about this. It is an irrelevant topic. Next, let's talk about the possible annexation of the red and pink forces. Several semi-stellar beings gathered together to discuss the future development of their forces. And just outside the main meeting star, there is an ordinary monster in the second game. You must know that there are monsters on countless stars in the entire disciple group. Counting them together, the total number is no less than hundreds of thousands. The conference star is regarded as a sacred place by these hundreds of thousands of monsters, so many people come here to play on weekdays. But today, the monsters playing here discovered some strange phenomenon. Hey, it seems like there are some unique fluctuations in the distant starry sky. I feel it too. You are a friend with space talents, and so am I. Could it be that something happened in space? It's impossible. The disciples are afraid of things happening in the space. They have built large-scale machines to stabilize the space outside the planet of influence. Now the space is absolutely stable. How could that happen? Just when a group of space genius beings felt something about each other in surprise. A twisted space, almost visible to the naked eye, rushed into the central starry sky of the disciple group. Afterwards, in that twisted place where every monster looked in fear, a monster with a bright metallic color stepped out of the extremely twisted subspace, as if it was about to explode. Next to the metal monster, there happened to be a sub-level being who had just felt the change in space and was about to run away. Is this the disciple group? This time around the monster, the being who had just stepped out of the subspace, and asked him slowly in an extremely cold voice. The second-level monster that was about to escape saw the strength displayed by the opponent, but it was just a second-level monster, so it ignored it. However, the strength shown by the other party actually suppressed him in place, unable to move at all. Knowing that even if they were at the same sub-level, the other party's strength would definitely far exceed his own, he responded quickly and wisely. Yes, yes. This is the headquarters of our disciple corps. You, a mere sub-level person, cannot be released here. He was submissive, but thinking that this place was the most terrifying hinterland of the entire disciple group, he suddenly became bolder again. You must know that 300 years ago, a highly talented semi-star level creature with half a foot in the star outside the Dark Realm, because his own power had a conflict with the disciples, single-handedly entered the headquarters of the disciples, trying to one person can kill the entire group of disciples. But the opponent was killed by the disciple group. You must know that the headquarters of the disciple group is far more than just strong men. Even technological weapons can kill several high-end talents with half-star level. Haha, we're here. I finally got here. Unexpectedly, the monster off that time was a little shocked to hear that the strange-looking metal monster ignored his warning and instead let out a nervous laugh. Then, he saw the monster turn its head, and a touch of coldness emanated from the metal eyes, making the creature's whole body tremble. For the sake of you telling me the information, let me tell you one thing, that is, from now on, run with all your strength. Run as far as you can, because the amplified fireworks are coming. The metal monster voice has a crazy smile. Then, the subspace behind him, which had been twisted to its limit, cracked open. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 988. What? I just kept feeling that the space around our main star is a little unstable. Hey, come to think of it, I have a similar feeling. Could it be that there are signs of instability in the space? On the main star of the disciples' forces, several half-star monsters who were discussing matters raised their heads one by one in shock. No. This is gravity. Suddenly, the face of a half-star monster changed drastically, and then he jumped up directly, regardless of his companions around him, crashed through the top floor of the building, and rushed towards the outside world. It turned out that this strange person was a being with gravity talent, but at this moment, he actually felt a gravity that even him, a semi-star level being with moderate talent, was a little frightened. This is simply not a level of gravity that humans can achieve. Outside the sky, the crow-like metal monster waved its claws, and then the space behind him split open, and a black substance that had expanded to about 100 kilometers, almost reaching its limit, slowly emerged from it. At this time, the gravity monster rushing up from the main star below had almost broken out of the star's atmosphere. This is when the medium-talented half-star level being saw the huge black ball above his head, his expression suddenly froze, as if he had seen the most incredible thing in the world. Madman! He roared in shock, and then recalled in his mind that several of his colleagues who had previously planned to destroy the Moke said that he had led an artificial black hole to attack the headquarters of the disciples. Yes, this metal monster is none other than Mok, also Jia Yan. It's impossible. Outside our forces, there are subspace sensors and gravity detection. How could he bring such a huge thing to the main star through detection? The monster retreated while roaring in his heart. It turns out that the disciples, as a force in the dark realm, are naturally very concerned about their own safety. They were also worried about assassins from subspace, and even suspected similar gravity-based material attacks. Therefore, many detection instruments are used in external detectors. What I didn't expect was that the subspace that Jia Yan passed through could not be detected by ordinary equipment at all, because he was traveling through a deep space. Even if the equipment could detect it, it would not bother to detect such a deep place. No one would have thought that someone would use the deep space that they occasionally enter when they burst into space strength in battle, and even be able to carry a terrifying object with a diameter of 100 kilometers. The gravity expert discovered at the first glance that the black hole slowly emerging from the subspace was about to explode. Even if he rushed forward and killed Mok, he could not stop it. Run, run, run. Instead of dealing with Jia Yan, he turned around and rushed towards the starry sky. The second elder has escaped, let's run away too. This thing is going to explode. A person behind saw the medium-talented half-star creature escaping, and immediately understood, and it also escaped at a crazy speed. On the main star, the senior executives of the semi-star level disciples who were emitting brainwave power and observing the progress of the matter all widened their eyes at this moment, and then stood up. What's going on? Isn't Tuka an expert in gravity? How could he escape? Could it be that the material that appeared is something that even he can't solve? Come on, let's go up and have a look. We can't see clearly from here. Several half-star beings flew out from the big hole in the building. Not long after, the demeanor of these monsters also changed drastically. It turned out that they had seen a secondary level that looked like a metal monster only 10,000 kilometers away from the main star. His space talent exploded and he controlled a pitch-black substance behind him, moving slowly. That detention was nothing, even if he looked like Mok, the enemy that the entire disciple group was gnawing at, but when he came to the center of the disciple group, even if Mok had 3 heads and 6 arms, he couldn't escape their pursuit. But the dark substance behind it was a bit shocking. A black hole with a diameter of 100 kilometers. At this time, the black hole that was about to explode had already shown terrifying suction power as soon as it emerged from subspace. If the scorching sun is a star that sprays out power all the time, then a black hole is a terrifying star-devouring monster that has no way out. Around a huge black hole, one after another monsters could not bear the terrifying suction, and one screamed and was pulled by the attraction and fell into the black hole. And their fall makes the black hole even more unstable. Mok. He can actually come here. Is that the man-made black hole behind him? No, this black hole is extremely unstable. Let's go, it's about to explode. Go, go, go. Several semi-star level beings knew the moment they saw the black hole that something was wrong. You must know that they are mature people. Although they are called geniuses, they have not lived for hundreds of years in this genius battlefield. Years old, now that I see the appearance of the black hole, I know that they can't stop it at all. That Moke is crazy. Even if he detonates a black hole, he himself is destined to die. Escape, leave him alone, we don't know if we can escape. Several half-stars were running away like crazy with extremely ugly expressions. They fell. Even the base camp had to be abandoned due to the existence of a small sub-level. Humph, want to escape. Just when this group of semi-stars escaped like crazy, Jia Yan, who triggered the black hole and released it from subspace, saw this scene. His crazy move this time was not worth it if he couldn't kill even one or two half-star beings from the disciples. You can't escape, explode now. Jia Yan also revoked the power of the space stone that maintained the stability of the black hole. At the same time, there was a space stone behind Jia Yan's body, which ejected almost instantly. Then a force belonging to the space stone explosion exploded. Of course, the explosive power of the space stone, which was originally considered terrifying, could not be sustained by a 100-kilometer black hole, and it was not enough in the face of the power of the explosion. But all Jia Yan wants is this little bit of power, and that's enough. The moment the black hole removed all the space stones that maintained stability, a bright light suddenly appeared on the surface of the pitch black hole. It was vibrating inside, and the light was getting brighter and brighter. Not far from this bright light, a space stone exploded, but it was not so eye-catching. Jia Yan took advantage of the black hole before it exploded and ordered the space stone to bomb first. He used the power of the bombing to bombard the entire body of his concept ship forward. At this moment, great damage occurred behind the concept ship, and pieces of material shattered. But this fragmentation was not without its benefits. The terrifying impact from behind directly caused him to rush forward at a speed that was several times faster than Jia Yan's usual speed. With this moment of power, Jia Yan forcibly opened the next dimension in front of him. Then he rushed into the subspace. At the same time, an explosion of flames erupted directly from the huge man-made black hole behind. After all, artificial ones are artificial. No matter how strong the suction force is, they cannot be as stable as a real black hole. After helping Jia Yan for so long, the life of this black hole has expired. Its violent explosion was not like an ordinary firework, but because of its extremely strong internal gravity, the whole thing first shrank inwards, shrinking into a black object less than the size of a palm with a diameter of 100 kilometers. Then this black thing turned from black to white. Then, at a speed that probably reached or even exceeded the speed of light, it exploded in a shocking way. Under the power of this explosion, no half-star, no sublevel, no venerable, no matter how powerful the disciples were, could not withstand it. The entire field of vision is filled with light, and the intensity of the instantaneous burst is greater than that of a surrounding star. Even if a venerable level monster directly sees this light, it will be blinded. And the power it exploded was even more unimaginable. A very close star with a diameter of 500 kilometers was completely pushed away by this terrifying explosion and even split into several pieces. Although the main star of the Apostle group was 10,000 kilometers away, the force of the explosion still arrived instantly. It was instantly scorched, and the terrifying high temperature turned the star into a state of lava. And a group of fleeing sages and sub-level officials came to Shiyuan in this violent explosion. Everyone was vaporized. Even those with strong defenses would not be able to withstand such a natural disaster. The expressions of the several half-star beings running for their lives in front of them changed drastically. Damn it! He can actually control the eruption time of this man-made black hole. Run, run, run. These semi-stars, even though they are more powerful than Jia Yan, are still mantises in the face of such a terrible natural disaster. It is impossible to face the power of the terrifying explosion. Now they can only use all their trump cards to escape from the scope of the terrifying explosion as soon as possible. But how could their speed be faster than the explosion speed that is almost the speed of light? They had just escaped less than 10,000 kilometers, and the explosive power of the bombardment from behind chased them behind. Damn it, the demeanor of the half-star existence changed. Even after flying tens of thousands of kilometers, the power of the black hole explosion still gave him a sense of fatal threat. This half-star being looked horrified and turned his attention to a half-star colleague beside him. "Help me escape with my life, and I will help you get revenge." It turns out that this half-star existence is the advanced half-star level talent of the most powerful person in the disciple group. His strength is not flying, so he is currently running away with a half-star with moderate talent. After his expression changed drastically, he directly pulled up the colleague beside him. In the next moment, before the colleague could yell and curse in fear, the power of the explosion hit him with a sudden shock from behind. Boom boom boom. The whole world is shaking, even the subspace is collapsed and damaged, the distorted space is even more distorted, and it can cut almost any material. But in this space, a monster ran away like crazy. Taking advantage of the impact of the previous space stone explosion, Jia Yan's speed reached the limit of his life. Not escaping is a word of death. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 989. For the first release of high-speed text, please visit the domain name of this website for simultaneous reading on your mobile phone. Exciting. So exciting. There was a hint of madness in Jia Yan's eyes. He originally had a somewhat crazy personality, but he has restrained it recently, and now that he has been pushed to his limit, his repressed outbursts are of course even crazier. During this rapid flight, he never thought that he, a mere venerable, would dare to come to the headquarters of the disciple regiment to seek revenge. In the eyes of other monsters, this kind of thing might not be any different from legends and myths. But Jia Yan just did it. And it was done for him. Of course, it would be perfect as long as the explosion impact from behind doesn't follow him so closely. Jia Yan was just a venerable. Even with the blue defense, he knew very well that if he was touched by the explosion, he would definitely die. Go, go, go. There was a solemn look in Jia Yan's eyes. Fortunately, when the power of the explosion reaches the subspace, it has no impact. Originally, what they entered was not the actual explosive material, but the impact on the subspace. In addition, in the subspace, one step is comparable to 1,000 or 10,000 steps in the outside world, so Jia Yan speeded up all the way, and was actually affected by the power of the most violent explosion that he avoided. Finally, after running away for who knows how many minutes, Jia Yan felt as if he had been running away for a lifetime, and the power of the explosion chasing after him finally stopped. But Jia Yan didn't dare to go back to that space. It was so twisted that he would only be asking for trouble in the past. Only then did he have time to look at the consequences of his crazy move. The concept ship is estimated to have suffered great damage. If it is not repaired, the effect will not be that great. Jia Yan looked at himself. His physical body was fine. It was protected by the concept ship and hardly suffered much damage. But on the other hand, the concept ship was not good. The rear was completely blown away, leaving only a bare half hanging, almost they will all break into pieces. Of course, there was little damage to the front of the concept ship. At this time, snowflake-like images were quickly displayed, and then the memory metal squirmed piece by piece, trying to make up for the damage at the rear. After this battle, the concept ship's strength was greatly damaged. It could have increased its strength to the level of high talent. Now, it can only exist at the level of medium talent. Of course, this is just a rough assessment. Jia Yan's actual strength is improving all the time. The extent to which he can really increase his radiation depends on the actual combat effect. It was so scary for me to escape in subspace, so the situation in the outside world must be even more exaggerated, right? Jia Yan couldn't wait to quietly tear open a trace of subspace, and waves of external fluctuations were transmitted to his perception. In the outer starry sky, a hot flame still filled the air. The entire starry sky seemed to have turned into a high-temperature furnace, and even the subspace that Jia Yan had just torn apart, there were flames rushing into it. Jia Yan waited helplessly for a while. At least dozens of minutes passed before he opened the subspace again. The outside temperature is no longer so scary. After tearing open the subspace, his concept ship roughly repaired its metal body and flew out of the outside world. Horrible. When Jia Yan saw the scene in front of him, even though he was somewhat prepared, his compound eyes still widened in shock. You must know that the most terrifying explosion he has ever seen was just the power of some technological artillery fire. Even those artillery fires, the most powerful ones, could only blast the surface of a star into molten paddles, but the scene in front of them far exceeded those scenery. Several stars were like burning fireballs, flying randomly in the starry sky. Although the main star had defenses, the defense layer had long ago broken. At this time, like its partners, it became a huge fireball, flying in the starry sky. Wandering in. Monster corpses that were so charred that they could not recognize their original appearance were floating in the vacuum of space. Although some powerful ones were able to preserve the general appearance of the corpse, they were unable to escape the burning of the high temperature and died beyond hope. Their appearance seemed to illustrate how terrible the tragic scene behind the power of heaven and earth was. The same is true for monster corpses within tens of thousands of kilometers. Even if Jia Yan saw a half-star existence, his corpse was just more beautiful and he was basically dead. Just as Jia Yan flew forward with some emotion, he looked at a place in the starry sky filled with flames in surprise. It turned out that there was a flame filling that place, and a monster with a seriously injured body, almost crippled, was flying forward with difficulty. There's actually someone alive. Jia Yan's expression condensed, and then he sensed the opponent's strength level. The power of the opponent's brain waves has also been greatly reduced. The waves that are released at this time are roughly the strength of a medium-talented half-star, but this sense of power is not something that a medium-talented half-star can possess. High-level talent, half-star level. Jia Yan exclaimed in surprise. He never thought that under such a horrific explosion, this highly gifted half-star could actually survive. This shows that the strength of a highly gifted half-star is beyond what Jia Yan can imagine now. Of course, Jia Yan didn't know that the other party was using other colleagues as shields, otherwise it would be impossible to survive such a shocking change. Since you are in so much pain, let me give you a ride. Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed with murderous intent, then he tapped his foot lightly and flew quickly towards the monster. The other party seemed to have lost the ability to distinguish danger due to serious injuries. In other words, he had never thought about the fact that in this terrifying place, there were attacks from the rear. You must know that he is a high-level talented semi-star, and he has struggled to survive this bombing. Who else can survive except him? Damn it, that MOK died a happy death. We managed to build such a large group of disciples. Now at least our vitality has been greatly damaged. We will not be able to regain our glory for hundreds of years. A semi-star level monster with high talent, some angry thoughts. He hated and was also a little frightened, because he did not expect that for the sake of a breath, MOK would actually use an artificial black hole to die with their forces. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not dead. I can't do what my senior wished. Also, this disciple group will not be destroyed for a day. I will not give up attacking for a day. It is impossible to restore glory. Just when this highly gifted semi-star existence was flying forward in a blur of consciousness, trying to reach an unaffected place to ask for help, a voice appeared in front of him. Who? The highly talented semi-star being raised his head warily, but his injuries were too severe and his eyes were burned, making him unable to see the other person's face clearly. Huh. Jia Yan shook his head, and then without saying anything, a concept ship's front paw suddenly thrust out. Of course he would not be careless. Even if the opponent was seriously injured, he was still a highly gifted being. At this time, his front paws were all blue, and his body also had some blue meaning. Okay? You're not dead yet. The highly talented half-star monster finally understood who the visitor was through the induction of energy. He looked horrified. You must know that he had been so severely injured. Jia Yan, who was closest to the black hole at that time, was not dead yet. He couldn't figure out the reason no matter how hard he tried. But now he doesn't need a reason, he just needs to know that Jia Yan can't let him go. He forced himself to lift a burned foot, but the foot almost lost its defensive function, and his brainwave power could not even attach defensive power to the foot. He desperately felt that this foot was pierced hard by the other party. Then the blue claws pierced his feet, and then pierced his brain. I hate. Unexpectedly, he used the life of a colleague as a shield, but he was still going to die. This highly talented semi-star existence was full of regrets at this time. What he regrets is not that he used the lives of his colleagues as a shield, but the reward for chasing Jia Yan's small team before. He did not take it seriously. If he took it seriously, Jia Yan would not be able to carry the black hole through the various spaces. Arriving at the main star area of their disciple group. What is even more regretful is that if he had issued an order earlier to invite the powerful forces around him to attack Jia Yan together, he might not have ended up like this now. Okay, you, don't be happy, there are still some strong men in our disciples group, you are destined to die. This majestic and highly talented semi-star existence finally passed away. This is also the first time that the venerable Jia Yan has actually killed a person who stands at the pinnacle of the entire genius field in person, a high-end half-star genius. In addition to the top talents of half-star level. The high-level talents of half-star level are walking sideways in the entire genius battlefield. Even the strong ones with medium-level talents of half-star level can leapfrog and kill anyone, can become a legend, but now, he, a mere venerable, killed a high-level talent with a half-star level in front of his opponent. If this is said, it will definitely shock the entire genius battlefield. Of course, there are almost less now. There must be survivors in the explosion just now, please help me quickly. Just when Jia Yan had just killed this semi-star level being, he heard an anxious shout from behind. It turned out to be a group of fugitive creatures on a star not far from the main star. At this time, one by one, caught in the energy of the bombing, they walked in the opposite direction and headed towards the center of the explosion to save people. Oh, the disciples are united within the group. Unfortunately, you are my enemies. Jia Yan looked at the monsters coming towards him. The most powerful ones were only at the second level of advanced talents. At this time, a faint fire flashed in his eyes. After that, his front legs faintly disappeared into the subspace. Not long after, the entire body of the concept ship entered the subspace. Not long after, a scream erupted from the groups of rescued creatures. There's a sneak attack. Surprises arose one after another among the creatures arriving from the outside world. There were too many creatures in the disciples, and although they were not as strong as Jia Yan, he had already suffered some injuries, and the strength of the concept ship was too low, so he could only be killed partially, and finally had no choice but to retreat. Of course, this killing is also extremely enjoyable. Entering the subspace, and then exiting the subspace, with rapid killing, he killed the senior officials of the sub-level one after another, causing the disciples' vitality to be damaged again. Thanks to the book friend who tipped me, I can't see who it is, but thank you anyway. For the first release of high-speed text, please visit the domain name of this website for simultaneous reading on your mobile phone. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 990. Moiwan Literature Network. For more information, please log in to the unique address of Moiwan Literature Network, mobile reading login. Welcome your visit /U003E /U003E /U003E. After causing a massacre, Jia Yan left. After all, he is not an Iron Man. Even if he fights again and again, even his evolved body will be tired. Jia Yan arrived at an uninhabited planet not far from the power of the disciple group, received the points hidden there, and then quickly escaped into subspace. Although he left, the sensational effect he caused has only just begun. A sub-level person, even a being who had made a name for himself in the entire dark territory before, was still sensational when he suddenly made a major move to destroy the main star of the Apostles' Fate group, several surrounding stars, and no less than 10,000 genius creatures. The whole starry sky. Jia Yan's name and this move will truly shake up the entire dark realm. What? A junior level, almost destroyed the disciple order? Could it be that there is some top outside force behind him? No, haven't you watched the news? This guy has no power behind him, and he doesn't have any helpers. However, he single-handedly destroyed the main star of the disciple group's power, destroyed several surrounding stars, and even killed more than 10,000 important disciples. Among the geniuses of the Fate group, there are even the most terrifying high-end talents in their power, half-star level. This has already caused a sensation in the entire dark territory, but you didn't know it? There are other things like this. I'll go take a look quickly. Okay, crazy, no. It should be said to be terrifying. A sub-level exists, but it can move an artificial black hole. No wonder it was said before that there was a strange force moving in this guy's bucket. It turned out to be the black hole. Reason. Although the black hole has exploded, God knows if he can still make another one. Don't provoke him in the future, and his power, which is called Tingtian Pavilion. Don't cause trouble for them. This, although the power is small, the level of madness and danger is not small. Yes, this Moke can no longer be described as a sub-level. His level of danger simply exceeds the average half-star level, and is even more terrifying than the high-level talent half-star level. After all, even high-level talents, even with a talent of half a star level, it is impossible to destroy the main star of the disciple group. On his way back to Tingtian Pavilion, Jia Yan had no idea that his news had spread throughout the dark territory almost instantly, and was faintly spreading to several ordinary forces around him. Of course, no one in the entire genius realm wants to have a terrifying sub-level person who can explode such a celestial phenomenon. If this incident hadn't happened in the dark realm, there might be star-level existences from the genius realm who would come forward. Questioned Jia Yan. This kind of thing usually doesn't happen in the dark realm, and of course it doesn't matter. Jia Yan didn't destroy the entire disciple group. If he did, there might be an official genius realm person who couldn't sit still and jumped out. In the twisted space, a monster of this type keeps traveling through the space. Not to mention other things, my physical strength has been faintly improved. Especially in terms of space talent, I seem to have more sense of subspace. Jia Yan moved quickly in the subspace on a concept ship. During such a long flight, he found that his subspace talent seemed to have greatly improved since then. In fact, it would be difficult not to improve. After all, he controlled dozens of space stones, suppressed the black hole, and quickly traveled endless distances. With such crazy use of space talent, it was impossible not to improve. So now, even though the strength and speed of the concept ship have dropped, Jia Yan found that he was more relaxed in the subspace. No matter how much the consumption of the concept ship and space stones is, my real strength still depends on the real body. No matter how great the loss of the concept ship is, no matter how much the space stone is lost, it is all worth it if I make progress in the real body. Jia Yan was a little happy in his eyes. You must know that his physical strength has been somewhat stagnant recently, but in this world of life and death and madness, he has made progress again. For Jia Yan, this is no less than the worst news in the world. Good news. Although I can also guess that after I have done this shocking thing, there will be fewer forces coming to provoke me in the future, but after all, as time goes by, there will still be some forces, or the remaining members of the disciple group, coming to take revenge on me. So I have lost so much strength, and I have to find a way to make up for it in the future, otherwise it will not be easy for me to gain a foothold in this dark realm just by relying on my body. After Jia Yan thought for a long time, his speed suddenly increased. More than half a month later, outside the planet where Tingtian Pavilion is located, space motion slowly cracked open one after another, and a highly sensitive crow-like monster slowly stepped out of it. But not long after walking out, the monster was in a daze. He is Jia Yan. The feeling of daze at this moment is not that he has met the enemy, but that he is looking at the Tingtian Pavilion star that he should be familiar with, but feels strange. It turned out that the Tingtian Pavilion star body when he left was a deserted one. Even though he had made a little reputation in the nearby starry sky, he only had a slight reputation in the entire dark domain. The guests who came here were all from the outside world. The lively situation at that time was now gone. In addition to the simple astral decoration environment of Tingtian Pavilion, there are ships and some extra buildings, and there is a hint of prosperity. What happened? Jia Yan was a little surprised. He even vaguely saw several ships belonging to large forces nearby. Although the overall strength of these major forces is not as good as that of the disciples, they all have mid-level talents and are half-stars. They can also be said to be a threat to Jia Yan today. Jia Yan sank for a while. Then his body retreated into subspace. The points are left to the outside world. Controlling the points, God moved forward slowly in the cold. Since he couldn't be too far away from Fen, otherwise Fen wouldn't be able to move, so Jia Yan stayed alert in the subspace and followed Fen forward. He wanted to see what the situation was like now. Master Baireo, are you back? When he slowly approached the Tingtian Pavilion star, a sub-level being who saw its appearance through the astral body observation system quickly flew out of the star like a piss, showing more respect than seeing a medium-talented semi-star. His move made the powerful spies or diplomats who had been waiting for a long time in Tingtian Pavilion look up. Among these monsters, several are of secondary level with medium talents, and some are of secondary level, and very few are of high level. Being watched by so many creatures, Jia Yan's control of the secondary level did not waver at all. Instead, he ignored so many eyes and focused directly on the monster he met. The other party is a former star robber that Jia Yan brought back before. How is this going? He asked calmly. Sir, these are representatives of forces from nearby who have come to visit you and Lord Moke. Each of them has brought a gift. The subordinate of Sigwan seemed to notice that he was distracted and unhappy, and he immediately restrained himself without saying anything. In fact, recently, all of their nominal subordinates in Tingtian Pavilion have gone crazy with joy. You must know that they originally thought that they just joined a more powerful sub-level existence to form a force. No matter what, this kind of force would not be able to get ahead in the Dark Realm. It might be destroyed by the big force at any time. What I didn't expect was that a few days ago, news came that the leader of his family's out-of-town force, MOK, was actually plotted by the Disciple Group, one of the top large-scale forces in this dark area, while he was on a mission. As a result, not only did he not die, he even tied with several high school talented and semi-star beings together with Mr. Baireo in front of him, and even left peacefully in the end. This is legendary enough. Two sub-level beings were able to escape with their lives in the hands of a group of semi-stellar geniuses. If word spread, it would definitely be a legendary event that shocked a group of people's eyes. But even more legendary things are yet to come. Perhaps because he was angry, the leader of their force, Lord Mok, actually rushed directly to the main star of the disciples' home base. Originally, even if a sub-level talent got angry again, it would only end up on the edge of the disciples' lair, dragging a few monsters to die together, but it was no different. He really broke into the deepest part of the disciple group, and even used an artificial black hole that no one knew how to create. After the explosion, the entire disciple group suffered heavy casualties, including a senior official. His talent was half-star level, but he was also killed. Lord Moke, who did all this, did not have anything wrong with him. He even went on a killing spree in the rescue team of the disciples before returning safely. Such deeds are not legends at all, but miracles. In the history of history, which genius of a sub-level master was able to accomplish such a terrifying and great thing? Even a highly talented person with a semi-star level cannot do this kind of thing. Therefore, it is natural for this sub-level subordinate to see the people and small groups around Tingtian Pavilion coming to visit cautiously. He even accepts the gifts very casually, even in the eyes of others. In front of him, he showed a commanding demeanor. On what grounds? Of course, it's him who is the subordinate of Master Mok. But now it seems that apart from Lord Moke, Lord Bai Wangfu, who is also a moderately talented and semi-star existence, is not happy. This subordinate of Sigwan is a little worried. You must know that they did not accept Les Xiaohong. They have been poor gangsters for a long time and can't stand the sight of money. I see. But to his surprise, after listening to his explanation, Lord Bai Wangfu was not too angry, and flew straight to Tingtian Pavilion without saying anything to him. Of course Jia Yan was not angry, he was just a little surprised that the surrounding forces and small groups received the news so quickly. He originally thought that at least until he returned, news about the disciples' power would spread here. I wonder, is this Mr. Bai Wangfu? When Jia Yan's control points came to the ground of Tingtian Pavilion, a voice came. For more information, please log in to the unique address of Moiwan Literature Network, mobile phone reading login. Welcome your visit. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 991. It turned out to be a half-star existence with average talent and strength. This monster looks like a monkey, and although its strength is at the mid-level talent and half-star level, Jia Yan feels that it seems to be slightly inferior to the mid-level talent and half-star level of the disciple group. This is the small gap between the geniuses of big forces and small forces. The other party looked at Bai Huangfu with a hint of fear in his eyes. You must know that in the rumors, this monster who seems to be only a strong person with high-level talents has actually been undefeated against the medium-level talents of two big forces. This monkey monster thinks that he is better than the medium-level talents of those big forces. The existence is a bit weaker, so facing Bai Huangfu, there is naturally great pressure. This senior is better than me. I am better than Huangfu. I don't know which force you are a senior from. Jia Yan controlled the clone and asked calmly. Haha, Sir Bai Wangfu, don't call me senior. I can't afford it. Just call me Piz. I come from the Kutuan forces 200 million kilometers away. After hearing the other party's words, the clone nodded lightly. He had heard of the Kutuan force, which was a very powerful force in the border starry sky. It was certainly much worse than the forces within the dark territory, but in the border area, it was already considered a big force. I don't know why Senior Piz came to Tingtian Pavilion. We didn't have much contact before. Piz was not angry at Jia Yan's harsh tone. In fact, their Kuchuan forces had long known that a new Tingtian Pavilion force had been established not far from them in the form of a mission, but before they, after some investigation, I found out that there was a MOK in Tingtian Pavilion who had fought against a mid-level and semi-talented genius in Carnival star power, so I was a little afraid and didn't come to make trouble. But some time ago, they learned something that shocked the whole group. That was Tingtian Pavilion MOK, who actually fought against the disciples again with Bai Wangfu in front of him, and even escaped from the siege of several half-star geniuses from the disciples. After that, Moke went to the starry sky at the headquarters of the disciple group in anger and detonated an artificial black hole, destroying more than half of the entire disciple group and more than half of the high-level combat power. This made Deku almost shocked, and he immediately sent this middle-level talent to come forward and come to worship the mountain. To put it bluntly, worshipping the mountain is a gift, which is equivalent to professing vassalage in exchange for Tingtian Pavilion not to trouble Kutuan. Otherwise, if MOK gets angry again, their group will not be able to withstand the explosion of a black hole, and most of them will be destroyed. As a person with a not slow mind, Jia Yan quickly clarified his thoughts from the other party's words. Haha, Your Excellency Piz is so polite. If you don't mind, just stay in Tingtian Pavilion for a few more days. In a few days, Your Excellency MOK from our power will return. Then you can have a good talk. No, just ask Mr. Bai Wangfu to visit me as a guest next time. Goodbye. After less than a few words of conversation with Jia Yan's clone, the half-star being with medium talent in Kutuan heard that Jia Yan was about to return, and almost jumped to leave. Anyway, the things were delivered, and at the same time, he met Bai Huangfu who was in charge of Tingtian Pavilion. He had completed his mission. As for Moke, it's better not to see him. If you know that this person exists, he will go to blow up the headquarters of the disciples in a rage. If you meet Moke, you can't say a word to anger him, and they will be miserable. It's really painful. There are several other forces and groups in Tingtian Pavilion that have the same purpose and ideas. They were all like Pitsy, who was in a bitter mood. He met Jia Yan's clone and had a few words. Hearing that the out-tempered Lord Moke was going to return in the near future, each of them had a drastically changed expression and left quickly. Not long after, the entire busy Tingtian Pavilion finally calmed down a bit. Of course, it is impossible to change the business system that has been formed and the things given by others. Some venerables have taken root in the influence, doing business, and purchasing. Some of them even came to apply to join Tingtian Pavilion. Hugging someone's lap is a habit of the weak, especially in a place like Tingtian Pavilion, where the leader is extremely powerful but his own power is only 3 or 2 kittens. There shouldn't be too many geniuses who want to join. After all, there are many opportunities for promotion. Jia Yan controlled the clones to screen the applicants briefly and then allowed them to pass, and none of them were kicked away. After all, he even captured his enemies as his subordinates. No matter how bad the applicants here are, will they be worse than that group of people? After doing all this, Jia Yan also discovered some changes. That was his Tingtian Pavilion. There were more and more people wanting them to do missions, especially compared to the price offered by Jia Yan. The invited creatures, whether they were guard missions or combat missions, had been waiting in line for a long time. Of course, Jia Yan's strength has been verified, even beyond other people's imagination, so naturally more people want his help. But at this point, Jia Yan would be a fool not to increase the price. One mission, 10 space stones. Let's talk about the remaining money and materials. 10 space stones is the base price. Jia Yan simply changed the mission requirements for his dispatch. Tingtian Pavilion also accepted other missions, but only ordinary subordinates were sent out. Of course, although this group of subordinates is not strong, according to the current situation of Jia Yan's secret work, the reputation in the domain, general forces, or robbers, etc. will also give some face. 10 space stones are not something that an ordinary small task employer can afford, so I heard a stream of curses below the post of the Tianj forces. But Jia Yan didn't care. He gave what he could afford, and what he couldn't afford, he was too lazy to do anything. There are some changes around Tingtian Pavilion, that is, there are more warships cruising around. Of course, they don't dare to approach, but they are very concerned about the movements of Tingtian Pavilion. After all, No force dared to look down upon a being who could casually blow up the main star of a large force. Even if he was not provoked, he was destined to be carefully observed. They look at them, but Jia Yan doesn't care and can't control them. After all, he can't fly out and chase battleships every day, can he? He doesn't have that much time to spare. That's all, things have come to an end. Now I have to take a good look at how I can improve my strength. Jia Yan was inside Tingtian Pavilion, thinking calmly about his own strength. To be honest, this is when Jia Yan is extremely weak. Although the strength of his body has improved, during this battle with the disciples, he lost the black hole, which further reduced the strength of the concept ship. Without these two things, now that he has a clone, he is no better than the clone at best. A mid-level talent with a half-star level is a draw, even if the recently improved strength of the main body is taken into account. With such strength and reputation, it is easy to fall into danger, especially since the space stones that Jia Yan urgently needed were exhausted in the last battle. If there are any, he can at least make some space stone blasting bombs. More or less increase the strength. Well, I will stabilize my improved strength recently, and then I will take on the mission to see if I can get some space stones. Then I will return to the Liqiao forces to see if I can find a genius to repair my concept ship. It's a pity that the Edissa hasn't come here yet. Otherwise, I might be able to use its power to make a better artificial black hole. Thinking of the power of the black hole, Jia Yan sighed. He didn't know how many times he had been helped by the artificial black hole he created before. Not to mention the explosion this time, he had been saved many times in previous battles, so nothing. Even with the help of the black hole, he still felt very uncomfortable. Fortunately, when the Edissa flies to the central star area, Jia Yan will be able to make a black hole again, and with the experience from the last time, and his space talent is even more powerful, maybe this time he will be able to use his with the addition of new ideas. It is possible to create a more terrifying and practical artificial black hole. Of course, those are all things in the future. Now Jia Yan is facing a short training. This improvement is about spatial talent. The Venerable's power has almost reached its peak, and Jia Yan can no longer increase the Venerable's strength. He wants to be directly promoted from the Venerable to the star, so he goes to Shiyuan. What we have to do now is to polish the details of our strength, and also assist the special method inherited from the senior, and then he can be promoted. Although the time is not short, it is definitely better than him to advance to the next level step by step, and then to half a star. After that, the speed of the star level was much faster, and several levels were saved. Of course, such risks are also greatly increased, but Jia Yan must increase in this way. Because he didn't want to be an ordinary star level, and only the star level could increase the chance of being promoted to the galaxy. What's more, I am a member of the Evolved Beast clan. The Evolved Beast clan has reached the star level and is far more powerful than ordinary creatures can imagine. The ability of those Evolved Beast seniors alone to keep enemies out of Orion's arms is enough to make the entire galaxy. I'm so moved. When I get to the stars, I'm destined to be a member of such a terrifying existence. Thinking that the Evolved Beast had reached the stellar level and was what the great empire within the Orion arm called the Starry Sky Beast, Jia Yan's heart felt hot and he wished he could be promoted to the stellar level as soon as possible. But now it's not the time for him to be promoted. He has to eat his food one bite at a time, and he can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. After arranging his actions for the next period of time, Jia Yan finally settled down. Regardless of the scolding or praise of Tingtianga on the internet, right now, he just wants to improve his physical strength first. In the dark starry sky, the heat for Tingtian Pavilion, which had just made an earth-shattering event, would not pass so easily. You must know that this is a major event that almost wiped out the disciple group, and even the impact of this major event has only just emerged. News from the Dark Territory News Channel: a biological refugee army of the Disciple Corps has just wiped out the small force Tiangang, causing the death of more than 300 genius creatures in total. Several major forces have spoken out against this refugee army. Express strong protest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 992. Today's news is about the remnant forces of the Disciple Regiment. Adhering to the concept of rescuing refugees, several powerful coalition forces wanted to enter the headquarters of the original force of the Disciple Regiment, but were rejected by the remnant forces of the Disciple Regiment. A conflict broke out between the two sides, and a battle broke out. A total of more than 60 living creatures, including those from the Disciple Regiment's front, were killed. More than 30 volunteers from the coalition's front were killed. The starry sky in the dark territory is full of news about the disciples. Moreover, the direction of the media trend is biased to one side. Everyone can see that it is the so-called coalition of dark forces that wants to invade the protagonist group, but they say it is to rescue refugees. However, the media still shamelessly called this action a righteous act, making everyone watching the news curse inwardly. However, no matter how much they scold the media, every creature in the Dark Realm has set its sights on this rare war in the Dark Realm. And through this war, we learned more about how terrifying the legendary Moke was. The coalition of several major forces fought against the remaining strong men of the Disciple Regiment for several days, with daily casualties in the hundreds. This was the result of a fight to the death on both sides, but this should have been a bloody battle, but before Moke with his actions, he seemed less exaggerated. You must know that this legendary sub-level existence, with a single person, wiped out tens of thousands of core experts of the Disciple group, leaving the Disciple group with almost no resistance. If you ask me, the current war in the Disciple Regiment is meaningless. The battle between Moke and the Disciple Regiment alone is an epic event. It's a pity that no one has any specific information about this battle. The people upstairs still worship Moke? Just wait, those who worship Moke, don't be happy. He is still in our dark area. One day he will be unhappy and make our dark area a mess again. By then it will be too late for those who admire him to cry. After all, can anyone guess what method Moke used to make the Disciple group look like that? I heard from a refugee from the Disciple Corps that he seemed to be detonating a black hole or something. In short, it was some crazy way. I don't know how he survived. Anyway, this guy is very dangerous. The dark creatures chatting on the internet were all discussing the war between the disciples. At the same time, they had more discussions about the direct culprit of the current war situation of the disciples, Moke, that is, Jia Yan. This discussion made Tingtian Pavilion's business better. Of course, no one among them could see Jia Yan in a state of cultivation. This situation lasts for several months. Finally one day, above Tingtian Pavilion, a sound of gently vibrating space shocked the creatures doing business in Tingtian Pavilion, as well as some employers entrusted with simple tasks. What kind of shock is this? It's scary. The vibration between heaven and earth seemed to ring in the hearts of living beings, making them feel from the bottom of their hearts that they would be shattered by this vibration. But not long after, the shaking stopped. As a matter of course, all living things turned their attention to the stone room in the center of the star. That was where Jia Yan retreated. Ha, it seems that my spatial talent has only improved so much this time. In the center of the stone house, Jia Yan stood up calmly. Not long after, a figure in subspace slowly disappeared from Tingtian star. Jia Yan took his clone and left without saying anything to anyone. Tingtian Pavilion is just a small group that Jia Yan created casually, and there is nothing worthy of his nostalgia. Of course, he will return in the future, at least now he feels that this dark realm is good. In the starry sky, Jia Yan, who had been flying in the subspace for a long time, left the subspace. During the past few months, Tingtian Pavilion has collected 3 space stones, which is enough for me to use as energy to fly for a period of time. I just need to leave the subspace frequently and fly in ordinary space for a while to let the space stones slow down. The slower you go, the longer you can fly. Jia Yan is now flying in the subspace and uses the space stone to help, otherwise he will not fly too fast. With only 3 space stones, he could only save some. In fact, he wanted to collect a few more space stones in the dark realm before traveling a long distance, but after thinking about it, Jia Yan decided to go directly to the Lakiao Force. After all, it was far away from that place. Chi space stone will waste too much time. Without the help of the peak strength concept ship, Jia Yan would not feel safe in the dark realm. Just as Jia Yan was flying with his clone, his expression changed slightly. This change in his expression was not due to any change in his real body, but because of another change in his expression. That is his other clone, the clone of Earth Jia Yan, and there seems to be something going on there. That's all, I'll just relax a little bit. I'm just on my way here, so I won't reach the Liqiao forces so quickly. After thinking about it for a while, Jia Yan decided to focus on the other side to check the situation. After all, the Earth is Jia Yan's hometown. If something happens, it will be bad. Jia Yan's mind moved, and then a wave of will traveled across an unknown number of light years to reach another distant area. On this blue planet, every Earthling has already lived a life that exceeded that of the Earth's Ad era a few decades ago. On Earth a few decades ago, who could have imagined that in just a few decades, Earthlings would be able to live a life with the help of virtual networks and robots? But people on Earth now live like this. In the land of the Geo family, in a place that seemed to have not been tidied up for many years, a human arm gently stretched out from the soil. This is a human man with snow-white skin. His appearance is not extremely handsome, but his inexplicable temperament makes him look like a bright pearl, or even a bright moon, so that even among the crowd, he is still as conspicuous as a bright moon. He is Jia Yan's human clone. This physical strength is too weak. Jia Yan just reflected his thoughts and shook his head helplessly. You must know that this clone was made in the Northern Star region. It was far weaker than his real body at that time. Now his real body has been fighting in the genius battlefield for a long time. Although he is still a venerable, his strength has long been beyond the creation. How long does it take to be a clone? So now when you turn your attention, you will feel that the clone's strength is extremely weak. However, Jia Yan's current strength is not without improvement for this clone whose energy is getting lower and lower. At least in terms of space talent, it can give this clone a great increase in strength. As soon as Jia Yan climbed out of the ground, he slowly used his brainwave power to scan the Earth. This clone is too weak and cannot even completely scan 1,000 kilometers radius. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. You must know that now his true body, even the entire Earth, can be scanned roughly, while the brainwave power of the clone cannot cover even 1,000 kilometers. However, this strength is enough to scan the nearby Geo family and a large area of Waxia. I see, the Earth has changed. Jia Yan sighed after looking at it. In a few years, the Earth has changed again. When he left, the Earth had just begun to receive a large number of people from the Rulan Empire and the Asta Empire. At that time, the Earth was in a period of drastic changes. Now that several years have passed, the Earth has undergone great changes. That is natural. Here in Jia's house, the buildings are just older and the security measures are more advanced, but there haven't been much changes. However, the city of return to the outside world is changing with each passing day. Spaceships are flying high in the city, and some of them fly directly to the city. In the universe, some are flying inside the Earth. Of course, these spaceships and even the battleship that Jia Yan saw were like toys to the battleships in Genius Battlefield, but to the people on Earth back then, they were like advanced things that were out of the blue. I felt a powerful brainwave force just now, but now I can't scan it. Jia Yan scanned it carefully again, but gave up and continued to sense. It was probably that the brainwave power user who shocked him was outside the detection range of his brainwave power. I haven't shown up for so long, and I just happened to meet my family. A few years have passed, and there have really been changes. Jia Yan shook his head and smiled, then and shook his body. The dust on his clothes shook off like rain. Then his entire human body floated up and flew towards the Jia family's houses outside the woods. Of course, during this period, Jia Yan, who did not deliberately conceal his figure, was quickly discovered by a much more advanced detector. Who? A being with an aura that was approximately heaven level gave a loud shout, and then he moved quickly, like a cannonball from a barrel, flying towards Jia Yan, a figure who looked like an outsider. Sir. When he saw Jia Yan, a person with early level strength at the heaven level, he immediately took a breath of air and almost fell down immediately. As someone who has seen Jia Yan in person, this heaven level figure naturally understands that what he is looking at is Master Jia Yan, who is worshipped by the entire earth and even regarded as a god. Even he understood that with the strength of this adult, killing him was almost a matter of a look. So of course he was shocked and quickly prostrate. No need to be polite, you did your duty well. Jia Yan nodded, then passed over this being and flew directly into a house of the Jia family. In the intelligence department behind the monitor, the people secretly protecting the Jia family members all looked at each other in confusion. It has been several years since some of these people joined the Jia family later, but none of them expected that they would see Jia Yan, a legendary and noble man, on this ordinary night after so long. When Jia Yan entered the house, it belonged to his parents. The Jia family has an unwritten rule, that is, the families live separately. Although they are all in the Jia family's mansion, there is still some distance, so that they can live a life without disturbing each other as much as possible. Today happened to be the day when Jia Lin and her two daughters came to meet Jia Yan's parents. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 993. Haha, Xiaoruruo has actually reached the prefecture level, which is very good. First time, dear. The two old men nodded with satisfaction as they watched their daughter bring the little granddaughter who was showing off as a treasure. Although the two elders of the Jia family are already over 60 years old, they have become younger and younger in the past few years, especially after a certain medical scientist from the Asta Empire published a theory of kinship between Earth people and the Asta Empire. After several improved longevity medicines were released from the Sto Empire, they lived longer and longer, and now they look like they are in their 30s. If others hadn't judged that the two elders' physiques were not suitable for cultivating brainwave power, they might have had the urge to practice now. Next to them, there was a woman who still looked about 20 years old, but the daughter beside her also looked 15 or 16 years old, which showed that she was not as young as she looked. She is Jia Lin, Jia Yan's sister. Next to her, there is a beautiful girl who is more beautiful than Jia Lin and comes from a big family, and she is Jia Qi, who used to always cling to Jia Yan. As for the mother and daughter, there is also a little girl who is very similar to Jia Qi when she was young. It is the little baby girl Jia Yan had seen before and was still holding in her sister's arms. Ruruo. Ruruo is now 6 or 7 years old. Her big eyes stare left and right, as if she can talk, which is very lovable. Grandpa and Grandma, I'm at the prefecture level. I'm very powerful, right? Better than my sister, right? Xiaoruruo still looked like a child, especially when she saw her sister. She curled her lips and looked angry with her sister. You're the only one who's good. Even though Jia Qi is a little older, she still has the temper of a child, making her sister who is several years older feel like vomiting. Okay, you two, stop arguing. It was Jia Lin who stopped the quarrel between the two sisters, and thanks to the age difference between the two sisters, otherwise they would be fighting now. Xiaolin, I heard that the Earth Alliance came to see you today, right? I wonder what it was about. While the family was chatting and laughing, Jia's father was the first to ask something serious. Hearing this, Jialin also stopped smiling and shook her head. Yes, the Earth Alliance government came to see me today just to deal with the so-called Great Empire envoy who came last time. Envoy of the Great Empire? A man's figure, who had been listening for a long time at the door, finally knocked on the door. Who? Please come in. The Geo family members inside the door were all stunned. You must know that in the Geo family, knocking on the door is generally not done like this. Even if the servants want to enter, there are other ways. But it was night, and someone knocked on the door? They didn't think there was any danger to the people outside the door, because if that were the case, the Geo family would have been in chaos. Even if a strong person comes, they understand that there is one of the most powerful people on earth sitting around the Geo family, and they will not be worried. Hearing Jia's father's voice, the man outside the door opened the door and entered. Yeah, brother. When all the Geo family members saw his face clearly, they were all shocked, and then turned into ecstasy. It turned out that the person who entered was the son that Jia's parents had missed every day, but could not find. He is also the uncle hero that Jia Lin and her little daughter remember every day. At the same time, she is also the family member who loves her most at home in Jia Qi's heart. Xiao Yan, you are finally back. Uncle. Little Jia Qi threw herself into the man's arms and started to act coquettishly. Only the stunned little Ruruo looked blankly at her mother, then at her grandparents, and then at her crying sister, not knowing what was going on. After all, she was still young back then and has forgotten about seeing Jia Yan now. Haha, parents, Xiaolin, I'm back. The man hugged his niece lightly, and then nodded to his parents and Jia Lin in front of him. He is Jia Yan. Uncle, why have you been away for several years? If you don't come back, I can get married. Jia Qi scolded Jia Yan with some blame. Little naughty boy, I really want to see what you look like when you get married. Jia Yan pinched the wings of Jia Qi's nose. At the same time, he also felt a little emotional. If he hadn't noticed movement on the earth this time, maybe when he appeared, this little niece who was still wearing diapers might actually get married. Come on, Ruruo, call uncle. Xiao Yan, sit down. You must be tired after not coming back for so many years. Sit down. Uncle, I'm already in the middle stage of the heaven level. I must be awesome. After digesting the joy of seeing Jia Yan again, Jia's parents and Jia Lin's mother and daughter became very enthusiastic about Jia Yan. You must know that we have not seen each other for several years, and everyone has changed a lot. My parents have become much younger than last time, and so has my sister. The two nieces have grown up, and Jia Qi is almost married. Except for Jia Yan, his body has almost no changes. In fact, it is almost impossible for Jia Yan to change a lot in a few years. After all, his strength has reached a very high level, and his lifespan has also been greatly increased because of it. Therefore, for him, a few years is basically not enough. It's nothing. What's more, this body is just a clone, made of materials that hardly change with time. Jia Yan nodded to them one by one. Especially regarding the health of his parents, Jia Yangxiang inquired carefully. When they met Jia Yan before, these family members had some frowns on their faces, but now they had disappeared, because they knew that Jia Yan's appearance represented safety. I was at the door just now and I heard you talking about the great empire's envoy. What's going on? After a few pleasantries, Jia Yan finally brought the topic to what he wanted to know. After all, the Earth today doesn't look like it's in crisis, otherwise the scenery he sees now wouldn't look like this. So Jia Yan chose to chat with his family first and then ask about this matter. Brother, let me talk about this. Jialin heard her brother talking about business and asked her eldest daughter Jiaqi to take her younger sister Ruruo to play while she talked to Jiayan. After listening to her remarks, Jiayan frowned in deep thought. It turns out that in what Jialin said, she first reported on the changes in the Earth in the past few years. The first was technology. After acquiring the personnel and material technology from the Rulan Empire and the Asta Empire, it was improving almost every day. Originally, everything was on track. Even now Mars, the Moon, and several planets in the solar system have bases and cities. People on Earth are taking the path of the universe faster and faster. But a year ago, a force known as the Great Empire was like a sudden stone, shattering the balance of the starry sky. They did not use force, but after the newly formed royal dignitaries of the Asta Empire rejected the other party's request, they almost suppressed the entire Asta Empire with the strength of 5 or 6 monsters. Under that unbelievable power, the Asta Empire compromised and agreed to the other party's request, no longer providing help to the Earth. Fortunately, the Earth's ambassador to the Asta Empire, Daphne, did not suffer any danger. She was just sent back because the journey was far away and people were still on the way. This so-called Great Empire's order is very strange. It subdued several great empires, and then issued some tasks that ordered several great empires to prepare for war. The most special thing is that after knowing the existence of this unique civilization of the Earth, it ordered several great empires to abolish an unequal treaty on this side of the Earth. Even not long ago, a so-called envoy from the Great Empire came to Earth and ordered the Earth to stop certain developments and instead use the current equipment to provide a large amount of minerals and personnel materials to the Great Empire. Fortunately, the Earth side has not surrendered yet, but is a little impatient with the opponent's appearance, so in the past 2 days, they invited the Geo family, who has an extremely special and noble status in the entire Earth, to meet with the opponent. Brother, I'm really angry. I used to be the most kind person on Earth, but he didn't appreciate it. He even said that I, an ordinary Earthling, didn't deserve to have dinner with him. I'm your sister. I'm so angry. Me. Jialin said, looking a little angry. When Jiayan saw her like this, he shook his head with a chuckle. Through this, he understood that even if his sister had 2 daughters as old as her, she was still the sister he knew, with a bad temper. Of course, Jiayan would not ridicule her, but analyze the meaning revealed in her words. It seems that the unique aura that my clone felt before was this so-called messenger. A big empire? Interesting. Jiayan thought deeply in his heart, but he didn't find the name Great Empire in his memory, or he couldn't think of any empire that would use such a name. What kind of big empire is this? Since it has conquered several big empires, it must have heard about me. If you dare to come under such circumstances, you must be confident and fearless. Jiayan thought a lot and then I understood that the other party must have some strength, otherwise he would not know his own strength and dare to come to the Earth. But now, although the power of Jiayan's clone is much weaker, his grasp of power and space strength have been greatly enhanced. Presumably, even if the brainwave power of this clone is weak, the strength he can exert is probably still better. Even if it happens twice, Jiayan is not afraid. In this case, let me go and meet this so-called messenger tomorrow. Jiayan said calmly to Jia's parents and Jialin. The Jia family will naturally not object to the decision he made. After all, in their view, Jiayan's strength is the most terrifying existence on the entire Earth. If he comes forward, the other side will no longer be able to oppress the Earth's government. Okay, brother, I'll leave it to you tomorrow. After hearing that Jiayan would take over this matter, Jialin nodded somewhat relaxedly. Good. Jiayan nodded indifferently. Anyway, he was still on his way there, so he could just relax here.